YouTube, Awesome Writer here. Welcome to my dual review of Gozyuger Episodes 2 and 3. I apologize about this being kind of late and smushing these together. You know, there was lots of Power Rangers news this week amongst other things, so I decided to just wait and cover these 2 episodes together and Gav's 2 episodes together tomorrow. But let's talk about it because what an interesting show this is. I'm still having a lot of fun with it. I think that kind of going into this with more of an open mind and trying to enjoy the craziness and the anniversary element instead of being a stick in the mud is really helping me vibe with the show. There's definitely some things that are still weird to me that don't fully work, but overall I'm still having a good time. We picked up episode 2, and I'm going to kind of go in order with the episodes, but there are some commonalities I'm going to bring up. But regardless, episode 2 picked up where we left off with Not Taya fighting against Gozyu Wolf. And I forgot to talk about that because there was so much in the first episode to talk about that we ended off with them fighting because he was like, oh, you don't have a dream, so I have to fight you. So they were fighting, but then that gets interrupted by Blue and Yellow, who their names are, I think Yellow is Ryugi, and Blue I want to say is Riku. I wrote it down as Riku. I probably should have looked it up again. But I kept wanting to call him Ryuki because after they introduced themselves, I kept repeating Ryugi and Ryuki in my head to remember it from my notes. So I think it's Riku, but regardless, I'll learn their names eventually. But they're introduced, they're teamed up and work together. And then we have the dynamic, of course, Gozyu Wolf is like, oh, I gotta pay rent to my landlord. And when she walks outside, she gets like kidnapped, not kidnapped, but the weird way the monsters come into this world is they kind of like take over the body of somebody like an armor. That's not something obviously the human villains have to do, but all of the monsters of the week have to do that, which is really kind of unique. So it gives him a drive to try to save her and get her back and all that stuff. And that enters Blue and Yellow into the situation where it becomes a treasure hunt. Now this is something I really like, is this dynamic of the different games. That was something that kind of excited me when I was reading the premise of this can help us break away from the typical minutia of the Sentai formula, is each episode so far is kind of have a theme. This one being treasure hunting, popularity contest in episode 3. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I also really like the villain designs. Like this guy, maybe he is and I'm mistaken, but I thought this first villain was actually one of the generals because he's designed to look like a general and I really liked his design and character. But they kind of all have to find the best treasure and all that. And there's some really weird, funny bits like Red literally digging for treasure with the Tegasword, and then Ryugi doesn't like it because his personality is very much like, I worship Tegasword, but also I probably am an evil scientist that gave someone a driver on a writer show. Like, he looks like he works with Suga over on Gav. Like, he probably made the dark chocolate powers. Like, seriously, this dude looks like a shady writer character. And then, of course, Blue, or Riku, who I'm going to call it, I'm probably, delivery's all wrong, I'm butchering it, but I'm going to call him Blue. I really like his personality. He's kind of like an idol that thrives on popularity, which obviously helps him thrive in the next episode. But so far, I just kind of dig him. I wouldn't think I would, but I don't know. But they're all searching for treasure, and there's these really crazy bits, like I said, with Tegasword digging, and then Ryugi doesn't like it. And he also comes in with a piano and like sings, and he's like holding it above his head, and that's later explained in episode 3 that they all have civilian powers, and his is strength, Blue is hearing, and then it says that Gozyu Wolf's is sniffing, which is really underwhelming power for a Red. But also he did have that super speed in the first episode, but I don't know if that was like meant to be a mystery, like he's tied to this, or if it's just part of the weird rhythm of the show, because that's the thing about this show. It's got such a weird rhythm, like I said last week. Like, it's quirky, over the top, very unrealistic. I mean, Sentai generally is, but this is an even more heightened reality. But there's just something about the weird rhythm to the humor and even the fight scenes, like I said, that it's unlike anything I've ever seen. It's just so weird where it simultaneously is a little bit off-putting, just because it can be a bit over the top and a little bit too much, but also there's just something about it that it doesn't flow right, but not in a bad way. But I also kind of dig it. It's just weird. Like, there's a scene at the beginning with Red and the kid making weird faces at each other, and like the landlord speeds up to him when she's asking for the rent. So I'm like, does he have super speed? Is this a mystery, or is that just part of the weird editing? But that whole sequence with the Tegasword was just part of that weird rhythm there. I keep saying the word rhythm, but that's the best way I can think to describe it. Then you have the final fight resolution where the monster technically wins the treasure hunt, and I thought Red was going to come in with some sort of secret treasure that he got, and the way he wins is just fighting him outright, but I guess he technically steals all the treasure at the end and wins. But then we have a really fun final fight for episode 2 because you have Yellow up in the mecha, and the mecha fights continue to be epic, and I love seeing these designs in live action, just because, you know, I've been focused kind of on the toy recently, and they don't look as good, but seeing them in action is really good, and the action does continue to be good. Not quite as, like I said, kind of polished feeling as Boom Boongers, but it's got this epic hype feel, lots of effects and acrobatics. So like you have the civilian fight going and the mecha fight, which was really a lot of fun. We get our first taste at like a Gokai change where he transforms into Boon Red. And I have to say, I really do like the way these look, actually. I still stand by that I wish they hadn't done it in Don Brothers. That just bothers me so much just because it makes it feel less special and less exciting. Like, even even Ryder, who up until at least recently goes way more all out with its anniversaries and returns, only has two guys that can do it. It's Decade and then Legend. Like with Geo, we did something different with the armors and stuff, so I wish we hadn't have done it. With that being said, I like that it's kind of unique that they keep their chest armor on, especially for the O-Red from episode 3. That one looks amazing. And I had to look it up too because I'm like, O-Red doesn't sound right. Is that what they're called in that? That's what they're called. I've seen the show, but it's just been a while. Anyway, the O-Red one looks really good, and this made me think, I wish instead of the action hero line just giving us boring past reds, they did past reds but with the armor on. In them released like 5 action hero reds that each come with one of the different colored Gozyuger armors, and then you can mix and match them. I think that would be a lot of fun. At the end resolution, we show that Taya is still in play. He kind of goes off wandering, so he's going to come back probably as a reoccurring presence, I imagine, which is really nice. I like to see that. We'll talk more about the reoccurring reds in a minute. And then you have Yellow buying the restaurant, Ryugi buying the restaurant so that they can all form an alliance. It seemed like they're setting it up as this alliance of like, okay, we're going to team up to gather rings, but then it's all of us against each other eventually at the end, which is interesting. It seems like they just kind of liked working with Red for this, I guess, and now they want to work with them for this. So it's kind of like a temporary alliance. It reminds me of a lot of different dynamics. It reminds me a little bit of Gokaiger in the sense that there's this kind of piratey feel to the team. It's like if the Gokaigers didn't get along in a way. They don't not get along, you know what I mean? It also reminds me of like the last Ninja stuff with the Ninja where there was a competition element. It reminds me of something else too, like I can't put my finger on it. Maybe it's the Hunger Games? I don't know, but there's like other things I've seen where there's like a competition and you have an alliance, even though they know they're gonna have to fight each other at the end. It sets up an interesting dynamic. Then we lead into episode 3, where we get a very brief introduction. Oddly, I was really surprised. For some reason, I don't know why, because they grouped yellow and blue together, I thought they were gonna do the same in the black and green were gonna work together. They did sort of debut in this episode, but differently. And I'm actually really pleasantly surprised with the pacing of this. Like the show is very fast and high energy, but they're taking their time unraveling everything and the mysteries and the elements of the Sentai heroes and how that all works, and then the team even coming together. I really like that. Like we just got a tease of, what's her name? I wrote it down in my notes. Sumino or something like that? Sumino, yeah. She's like at the beginning of the episode and sort of keys them into some things that are going on and as like, why are you guys working together? And then she's at the very end, having been revealed to work with the Prime Minister guy, and she doesn't even morph. Like we saw her ring at the very end and that was it. And then we got a very quick teaser for Green. Sorry to skip to the end, but he kind of shows up and fires off a shot, which I kind of hoped it was his only appearance just because I like that little teaser. But then at the end he's like old and I think he's gonna turn young. I'm like, that was a really big WTF moment. Like not as much as Taya transforming, but I'm like, what the hell? I don't remember seeing anything about that in the trailer. So that was cool. But I like that like they teased Green and Black here, but they didn't get a full debut. It was almost like 2 and 3 were more about Yellow and Blue's debuts and specifically to their mecha. And like, cause Blue got the mecha battle this time, which also looked really cool. And you know, the civilian suits, I said it reminded me of something, and people kept saying Kiba Ranger. I mean, now that you say it, sure, but that's not what it reminds me of. It reminds me of some other type of like regular clothing, and I just don't know what it is. I feel like it's from Otoku, but I can't put my finger on it. Anyway, he's fighting against the bouquet villain who develops like a crush on him, but then is mad because her crush attacks him. That was a little bit of fun. But anyway, I really like the pacing of kind of just teasing Black and Green here, and now they're going to get their debuts probably more so in episodes 4 and 5. But I like the pacing of that, and it's kind of a weird juxtaposition to, like I said, the fast-pacedness of the show, and yet you're also slow-burning compared to a lot of other Sentai, which is something they're kind of carrying over that I liked from Boom Boomger, is I like that there was a slow build-up to the team. So the central conflict in this is a popularity contest. You do have a monster participating and like instigating it, but you also have Harriet Jones, Prime Minister, as the main antagonist who has the Don Momoraro ring. So we have our first non-returning Sentai Legend Ranger thing. And I like that. I hope it's varied. I hope Taya's not an anomaly. I hope we get more returning Sentai characters as other Rangers. I think that's fun. I think it's unique. I think it adds mystery. A part of me is wondering, like, if Taya was to transform with the Boom Boomger ring, would he get his memories back? Is he even Taya? I don't know. There's so many questions, and I'm really looking forward to getting to it. I think that's a cool way to do Sentai returning cameos while being different from Gokaiger, and it keeps it varied, because you can have a fun character like this week who's very different from Momotaro, but also played into some of the aspects of real Momotaro with the laughing he did in the episode, and also the fanfare of which Momotaro comes in when he transforms in the series is very much kind of the basis for the popularity aspect of this. And he's also set up to be a reoccurring character or villain because he kind of tricks Goju Wolf. I'll be honest, he annoyed me a little bit, and I think that the popularity storyline I didn't like as much as the treasure hunt, but it was still fun and interesting, and I like that there was like 2 villains in this episode effectively, with the main monster like normal, and then you have the Sentai hero as well, and then you also get yet another interesting fight where you have the ground fight, you have the mecha fight, and then you have like fighting the monster as well as the Sentai hero. And also they revealed, I don't remember seeing this before in trailers or footage or whatever, that when a Legend Sentai character is transformed, they can use other rings to get other Sentai abilities. So it was super cool to see Don Momotaro with Jetman's wings. And also, I really quickly wanted to make mention to this, which is in a weird way a follow-up to my Tegasword review, where I was disappointed that the main Tegasword didn't have a unique sound for each returning Sentai, and it's clearly now that it's an exclusive of the silver one, which I didn't think about in that review. I don't know why, but God, they're gonna get me to buy the silver one now, though. But I do wish that the toy for that had that, but it made me think about that in this episode, so. But yeah, overall, this show is very, very strange. Honestly, it's one of the most high-energy Sentai I've seen. Like, also, like I said, the heightened reality is, like, more so than anything. Like, King Gozyuger got talked about a lot as, like, a live-action anime because of the way it looked and the way the characters were designed, which is true. But this even more so feels like a live-action anime with the weird, like, over-the-top stuff they do. Like, Sentai, right, or Toku always does it, but this is, like, on another level, like, all the time. And it's still sometimes mixed, sometimes the humor and the strangeness doesn't always work for me, but I'm still really intrigued by so much about the story and how everything works, and honestly, like I said, going in with this new attitude, I'm just having a blast, and I can't wait for the next episode. But let me know what you guys thought of the episodes in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to climb the steps and ring the bell to get notifications for all my videos. Speaking of ringing the bell, though, there was also a funny bit about how one of the henchmen was, like, given character, like he had a lot of drive in episode 2, which I thought was just really funny. But anyway, Dawson Rider, signing out.